On this episode of Just Informed Talk, the latest new Q posts point us to who might be the next Supreme Court justice if Ruth Bader Ginsburg steps down, plus the full story on John Brennan's time at the CIA and how the Steele dossier was initially wrapped up into a FISA by him and his cohorts, allegedly, and much, much more. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. First of all, thank you to everybody who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't done it, please come here on the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you're notified when these videos get posted. So, here we are. This is where we're going to pick up where we left off. We left off at Q post 2670 on January 11th. And there was one post after that I didn't get in the last video. So this is where we're going to be starting today, which is Q post 2671. And of course, there are new Q posts that came out today or yesterday, depending on when you're watching this. And that is exactly where we're going to begin. But as always, I'd like to begin by saying, if you want to get caught up to where we're at, come back here, watch these last few videos. There's a whole bunch of great information in here, and it'll basically catch you up to where we are at. And if you scratch your head going, what is QAnon and what is this guy talking about? I encourage you to come back here and watch this video, which talks about QAnon and the Great Awakening. It'll give you a great idea of what exactly that is, how to get involved, where to find the information, how to do the research, and all of that other cool stuff. All right, so here we go. We're just going to go right into it. So this is a Q post from January 11th, a few days ago. Basically, this one came at the tail end of a drop, and I happened to miss this one. So in this video right here, I'm talking about all that. This is the one I missed. So let's go ahead and read through it. It says, if a woman is selected as the nominee, does that eliminate the wrap-up smear regarding sexual assault? What other tactics might be planned to block and or force name removal? Why is the Senate important? Who controls the Senate? 5347. Enjoy the show. Q. So as you guys know, in the last few videos, we've been talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and what's going on with her and her different things that have been happening, especially with her health, as she's been basically unable to attend hearings at the Supreme Court. So this is basically talking about who's going to be replacing her. So Q's giving us a good idea of who that might be. Obviously, it's looking like President Trump will select a woman to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which makes perfect sense. And this whole thing makes a lot of sense too, because it talks about, look at what happened to Justice Kavanaugh, okay? That's all you have to look at, and that'll tell you everything you need to know. Because as you all remember, there was an incredible theatrics and shows and allegations and multiple women coming forward and making allegations against Justice Kavanaugh. And they all turned out to be uncorroborated, and basically he was made into a justice. Obviously, it was baseless, the baseless accusations that they were trying to use to impugn the character of Justice Kavanaugh in order to basically keep him from becoming a justice in the Supreme Court. So the question is, by selecting a woman, does that eliminate the ability for them to smear regarding the sexual assault? Well, probably. It'll make it much more difficult to sell that one, depending on who they pick, obviously. But it says, what other tactics might be planned to block and or force name removal? I could only imagine, guys. They're going to be going into every closet looking for every skeleton, and when they can't find one, you know what they usually do. They tend to fabricate whatever they need. So that is something that we have to look forward to. And it's talking about the Senate. Why is it important? Who controls the Senate? Well, Republicans control the Senate 53-47. Why is the Senate important? Because they're the ones who have to approve vis-a-vis a vote in order to approve the justice to become the next justice of the Supreme Court. So President Trump makes a nomination. It goes to the House for a committee where they have questioning, and then it goes up to the Senate for a confirmation vote. So, and in that process, there's multiple hearings, right? So that's what it is. The next one apparently is going to be a woman. We don't know who yet, but as long as it's not Loretta Lynch, I will be happy. So that's basically all this one is saying. And you guys can use your imagination to fill in the blanks. And I'd love to hear down in the comments. Why don't you guys let me know what you think the other tactics might be that are planned to block and or force the person who would be nominated by President Trump to the Supreme Court to be removed upon Ruth Bader Ginsburg's resignation. I'd love to hear that from you guys. So here are the next couple of posts, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit behind on this, but there is a lot going on, and this is the information that's come out. Now, this is an actual report from an article from Real Clear Investigations. They're talking about this is from February of 2018, so this was like a year ago. Here's the article from Real Clear Investigations, written by Paul Sperry on February 11, 2018. Now, what does this talk about? The whole article goes into John Brennan and his role at the CIA during the transition from between President Trump, between the run-up to the election of President Trump into the afterward area there where President became the president-elect. What happened, right? This is from a while ago, so all of this stuff, a lot of it we've kind of figured out now, but there were some interesting parts that I highlighted that I wanted to share out of this article. First of all, I'll leave a link to this down in the description if you guys want to read it for yourself. But here was one interesting little tidbit I pulled out of here where it talked about how there were several Capitol Hill sources. So let me just give you the outline. The outline of this story is that it talks about how John Brennan did everything he could to promote this Steele dossier, which was used by FISA courts to spy on Paul Manafort and Carter Page, and that in turn, that was how they were able to infiltrate the Trump campaign and start spying on them and wiretapping them. So because of the two-step rule, meaning if I choose you for a FISA warrant to get basically surveilled and spied on, then I can spy on everyone that you contact, and I can go spy on everyone they contact. That's the two-step rule in the FISA data collection. So meaning if Carter Page wrote an email to Don Jr. and Don Jr. wrote an email to President Trump, bada boom, bada bing. You have the whole enchilada there. You can look at everyone's information, everyone's emails, and that is terrifying, right? But that's what happened. So here's a part out of this that I wanted to share with you. It talks about John Brennan. Let's read it. It's talking about several Capitol Hill sources say, and I'll try to roll this down here. You guys can get this article. Just scroll down to the description if you want to get the article to read it in full. It says several Capitol Hill sources say Brennan, a fiercely loyal Obama appointee, talked up the dossier to Democratic leaders as well as the press during the campaign. They say he also fed allegations about Trump-Russia contacts directly to the FBI while pressuring the Bureau to conduct an investigation of several Trump campaign figures starting in the summer of 2016. So the article goes on to talk about how on August 25th, 2016, for example, the CIA chief gave an unusual private briefing to then Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid, a Democrat from Nevada, in which he told Reid the Russians were backing Trump and that the FBI would have to take the lead in an investigation because the FBI is the federal agency in charge of domestic intelligence and, unlike the CIA, can spy on U.S. citizens. 2 days after Brennan's special briefing, Reid fired off a letter to then FBI Director James Comey demanding he open an investigation targeting individuals tied to Trump to determine if they had coordinated the Russian government to influence our election. So those two things to me, and there's so much more in this article. I'm going to read you a few more excerpts from it. I really encourage you guys to go read the full thing. It's actually very interesting. So here's a part. It says, after Trump won the election, sources say the CIA director sought to weaponize the dossier's wild accusations against the president-elect. In early January, just weeks before President Trump was inaugurated, investigators say Brennan saw to it that the contents from the dossier were attached to an official daily intelligence briefing for Obama. The special classified briefing was then leaked to the major Washington media, allowing them to use the presidential briefing to justify the publication of claims they had up to that point not been able to substantiate and had been reluctant to run. Of course, then it goes on to talk about CNN and how they ran the story and then how BuzzFeed did it. But here's another interesting part where it says, at the time, the Washington Post was assured by Obama intelligence officials that, quote, the sources involved in the dossier's reporting were credible enough to warrant inclusion of their claims in the highly classified presidential report, unquote. Months later in public testimony, however, Brennan said the dossier and its sources were not credible enough to incorporate the information in a separate January 2017 intelligence report on Russia election interference publicly released by the administration. So, and these are just some of the highlights that I pulled out of this because it's kind of an older report. But here's one more that I thought was very interesting, and we'll read through really quickly where it says, let me just scroll down to this. Here it is. A year later, after it was finally revealed in the national media that the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee funded the research that went into the notorious dossier, James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, insisted it, quote, doesn't matter who paid for it. Obviously, guys, it doesn't matter that Hillary Clinton funded this campaign research, right? And the manufacturing of this Steele dossier, which is unverified and uncorroborated. Yeah, that doesn't matter, guys. Nothing to see here. And the rest of the article kind of just goes on and on about that stuff. And you guys should go read it for yourself if you want to get the full gist of it. It's back from February of 2018. So the information, a lot of it we already know. We've been talking about on Q boards for a while. What I thought was interesting is, I guess since we're going back, right, into the time machine that is the internet here, let's go back to these unverified reports out of the Bruce Ohr hearing on August 28th. Now, this was put out there by this Greg Rubini on Twitter, and what they're basically saying is that an anon who was inside, it says here, stunning revelations from someone who was actually in the room during the closed door session. Now, this is talking about the DOJ Bruce Ohr hearing. Now, let me preface this by saying that these are unverified reports of what happened in that closed door meeting. So take it with a grain of salt. But this is what the anon was saying. So it'll kind of go through who says what to who here. First, it says, this is the anon who's telling us about what's going on inside the hearing. It says, Bruce Ohr said that the FBI counterintel chief Bill Priestap, threw Peter Strzok under the bus, essentially working outside the chain of command with higher-ups and an unnamed third agency. And then another anon asks, is it because it will implicate Obama? And then that person who is inside the hearing says, they all know but are dancing around that fact, getting things are record to get it. I think it means getting things on record to get it, but to get to... I can't see it. It got cut off. Anyway, let's keep going to hear some of these other things. This is what the basically they titled it with the explanation. It says, naming names, dates, places, cutting a deal to save his beautiful wife Nellie is admitting that they along with many others. Excuse me. Sometimes it's just terrible grammar here. With many others, conspired to willfully lie to the FISA judges in order to spy on candidate Donald Trump and secretly subvert and impeach the president. This implicates conspirators with collusion with foreign nationals in the UK, Australia, including Russia, intel assets tied to the Kremlin government. The upper echelon of the DOJ, FBI, and CIA were in tandem working at the behest of the Obama administration in an effort to tamper and meddle in the 2016 U.S. presidential election in favor of then Democrat candidate Hillary Clinton. Several U.S. national news organizations and publications are implicated in the dossier today in Congress with laundering and falsified allegations to bolster credibility for the renewals of the FISA court applications. So going on and saying all that, then they come back and they say some Democrats in the early onset of the hearing were making statements honoring his service. Then they quickly attempted to impugn Bruce Ohr's character because he was fessing up to technical aspects of the investigation with great detail of how they were attempting to thwart the candidate and President-elect Trump. 2 recesses had to be made within 20 minutes to settle down the Democrats. One of the members in the hearing, Hot Mike, mumbled, "No one survives from this." Now, again, I'm going to reiterate, these are unverified reports of what happened in that closed-door hearing. Fascinating to listen to. Here's a good one. It said, Bruce Ohr confirmed that Comey traveled to the UK for this very purpose with 2 Obama White House officials. Bruce Ohr confirmed that the Inspector General and Huber have had several interviews separate from his wife. Interesting. Here's another one where it says, Bruce Ohr, exact words, loathe President Trump. Asked if that motivated his actions, quote, "You can say that," unquote. Bruce Ohr is flanked by 3 lawyers or bodyguards. They don't look happy and fidgety. So that's obviously somebody picking up on that. Again, this is what we were talking about before. Here we go. It goes beyond the dossier in the New York Times and Washington Post, and it says Bruce was asked if his wife currently works for the U.S. government. Yes, but at the behest of attorneys, not to mention which agency. Oh, I wonder which one. And it says Bruce Orr's drinking a lot of water. Interesting. So these kind of go on to talk about, seems Bruce Orr's ganging up against Comey rather than McCabe. Interesting. Lynch was named. Just, so it's funny. I guess they must have... So I guess Bruce Orr brought up Loretta Lynch, the former Attorney General, and they immediately called for another recess. Yeah, I think I can guess why. Here it goes. Oh, no, I haven't. They are seriously afraid of him. I wouldn't waste my time if this was not the case. I think they was asking him about Bruce Orr and them. Here's a good one. It said Bruce said he's had dinner with Mueller, Robert Mueller, the head of the special counsel, several times and discussed Trump once briefly. Yep, FISA question time. It says, he just now alluded that one of the judges was in on it or had full knowledge. Dems were quick to object. So one of the FISA court judges, according to this source, Bruce Orr said was in on it somehow. Remember, these are unverified claims about what happened at a closed door meeting, so this is pure speculation. I'm trying to make that as crystal clear as I can here. So then one of the Anon says that explains the deafening silence from the FISA judges, and it says, well, they only mentioned one of them thus far, not named though. Now here's an incredible one where it says, the Anon says, everyone was paid, including his wife, Orr said, and he says, shaking his head, shake my head, and curses. Here we go. Bruce Orr saying that he regrets being led by Steele. Orr got played. Interesting that it was Orr bosses that encouraged the relationship. Orr really screwed up. I guess the wife had the... I don't know about what that means. Anyway, I guess Nellie Orr was doing something. They say Yates was named, and then somebody says Flynn should be happy. And then it says... Nope, he named him 3 times. Contract work was his exact wording. Orr said GPS servers data handed over to White House. Interesting. So the GPS, I guess that would be Fusion GPS's servers, were handed over to the White House. So they really do have everything, don't they? And then, of course, the last thing is talking about the one of the other people who were said to have infiltrated President Trump's campaign, this guy named Stephen Halper, who is good friend with John Brennan and connected to a UK private intelligence agency called Hackloit? I don't know why I can't say that. Hackloit? Yeah, Hackloit, obviously. That's so easy to say. And you guys are, I'm sure, going to let me know about it all down in the comments. But here he is pictured at the firm, and that's basically the full thing. Okay, so wow, right? Fascinating to read all that, and it's speculation. I just thought I'd throw it out there as food for thought for you guys to look at. But let's get back to the post, right? Because we kind of got a little off here, but I thought that was good information to know before we read the rest of this post. It says Democrat House focus on POTUS equals insurance, quote unquote, extension from Mueller to House. Grand jury testimony underway in several states. Attempts to block, protect themselves will fail. Far beyond political corruption, sedition, laws governing removal of a sitting congressman, woman / senator. Lights on. Q. So let's read this in the context of all the information that we just reviewed. Okay, so it's talking about the Democrat House focusing on President Trump, and that is the extension of their insurance policy. Now, this all started with them, once they realized it was possible that Hillary Clinton might not win, they scrambled to make some kind of insurance policy to cover their trail. Now, how did they do that? As Q has alluded to before in previous posts, what was the whole Robert Mueller investigation? What was it made for? Well, according to Q, allegedly that whole investigation was made to take possible evidence that would implicate certain individuals in government as being corrupt and using the government illegally to spy on President Trump and his campaign in order to meddle in the 2016 election. So they create an investigation that talks about President Trump and Russian meddling, and they take all of that evidence that would implicate themselves and they put it into an ongoing investigation. What happens when evidence is put into an ongoing investigation? You can't release it because it may affect the outcome of that investigation. So basically, in short, they took everything that would have implicated them in this FISA-gate, in the spying on President Trump, in the illegally getting the warrant, using the Steele dossier, which was unverified, and giving it to a FISA judge who allegedly, according to certain reports, could have been in on it, and others who may not have been in on it, but they signed off on warrants to go and spy on President Trump. And like I said, using that two-step rule, they just had, all they needed was Carter Page. Because if he sent one email or made one phone call to anyone in the Trump sphere, and then that person talked to President Trump himself, they have everything. They don't need anything else. So they got all of that together, and they put it into this special investigation, and now it's going to be extended into the House majority in the Senate, where you're going to have all of these Democrats calling for these investigations, calling for impeachment, calling for the elimination of the Electoral College, because they cannot lose another election. It's becoming quite clear what their motivation is. It's not what's best for our country. It's to save their own tail, in my humble opinion. So that's what this is talking about. But then it gets even better, because everybody knows, if you've been following this Q thing for a while, if you're new to it, I'll kind of fill you in quickly. John Huber and Michael Horowitz have had multiple investigations going on out of the Department of Justice, where they have a team of 470 investigators. They've been taking witness statements, they've been collecting evidence, they've been putting together cases, and now they're finally, according to Q, giving grand jury testimony, right, in several different states, probably in several different state courthouses, where charges are being filed, or federal courthouses, wherever, right? So this is happening, and obviously if you have sealed a grand jury, then we wouldn't even hear about it. They're giving testimony. The grand jury is going to decide whether there's enough evidence to indict, right? That's what we're looking at right now, and that's why Q's telling them basically any attempt to block or protect themselves will fail. If you're guilty of a crime, treasonous against our country, and you're corrupt, I'm sorry, I have no sympathy for you. You will be indicted. You will be have the full weight of the law put against you, and that's just the way it is. And when Q says far beyond political corruption and sedition, that gets into other realms that are terrifying, because, I mean, political corruption and sedition are pretty bad. Let's be quite honest, okay? But if it goes beyond that, that's what you have to ask. Does it go into things like human trafficking? Does it go into things like the accusations that have been made about ritual abuse, about basically treason in certain instances, where it's been alleged that certain government officials sold information to the Chinese that ended up that effectively ended the lives of certain CIA assets in China. And that's just one thing, not to mention Uranium One, not to mention that whole thing with Rosatom and Robert Mueller and everyone involved with that, or the fact that Joe Biden's son worked in, got $1 billion deal right after Joe Biden left. These things from China, these things are all adding up, and it's showing us what's actually going on behind the scenes. Now, the laws governing the removal of a sitting Congress man, woman, or senator go into basically what's written in Article 1, Section 5 of the U.S. Constitution, which says, quote, each House of Congress may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with the concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. So that's the best I can kind of come up with, is they would need a 2/3 vote to expel a Congress member. But then it says here to remove them. I don't know if that's talking about removal or arresting. I don't know. You guys have to let me know what you think down in the comments. Now, lights on. I think this is just referring to, we're shining a light on what's going on here. And that's what's terrifying everyone. That's why there's a panic in DC. That's why you're seeing such a hard resistance from the left and the mainstream media in trying to basically discount everything that we do and say in this Q movement, because we're actually onto something, it would seem. Now, here is an interesting one I want to look at real quick. So first, Q gives us this old Q post from November 3rd of 2018, where it says, it talks about the Democrat Party con. It says, when you can't raise money organically through party individual donations, voter base, you steal it from the American taxpayer and give it back to yourself in the form of campaign contributions. This is example one, Planned Parenthood. It says $1.5 billion provided in taxpayer funding over a 3-year period. Case one, Planned Parenthood spent $30 million, disclosed real estimates close to $65 million in taxpayer subsidies to influence the outcome of the 2018 midterm elections. Conclusion, should it be legal for a taxpayer, Democrat, Republican, independent funded organization to donate massive amounts of money to the Democrat Party in an effort to sway an election? Democrat insider term T. Washington reread drops regarding Soros and taxpayer funding. Your hard-earned tax dollars at work. Vote, 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 Q. Now, yeah, I mean, think about the absurdity of this. It's a taxpayer-funded organization that's receiving over or $1.5 billion over the last 3 years, and they end up spending between $30 and $65 million in taxpayer subsidies to influence the election. So Congress is going in there and they're routing this money to Planned Parenthood, who is in turn using it to give it back to the politicians who routed the money out of government. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's crazy to me. And then here we go. This is Charlie Kirk, who we know has been, he's been doing all types of cool stuff. And he was mentioned by the president recently, but he says, Planned Parenthood spent $30 million to help the Democrats win back the House. Yet we still give them $500 million in taxpayer funding each year. If they have that kind of cash and engage in that blatant partisan activity, why am I forced to fund them with my money? It's a great question. I couldn't agree more. I mean, think about the absurdity of our taxpayer dollars being routed to an organization that, first of all, does things that I don't agree with. I think that Planned Parenthood needs to be ended. That's just me, my personal opinion, and you guys can think whatever you want. But I think that is an evil organization. But the absurdity of congressmen and women funneling money into this organization only to have it basically given back to them in the form of campaign donations. Does anyone else see the absurdity in this? Anyway, it says fake news control over those who do not think for themselves limits exposure of truth. The Democrat Party con, Q. And that's what it is. They don't cover this stuff. They don't talk about it on the news. They don't talk about Planned Parenthood. You know, you have to come to alternative news sources just to get a slice of reality. And that's why there's a demand for this kind of information on the internet. There's a demand for just an honest opinion, an objective look at what's going on. Now, of course, I'm subjective. I have my own opinions, but I try to make it very clear to you, the audience, when I'm giving you an opinion and when I'm giving you a fact. And those two things have become intermingled on the mainstream media to where you can't get facts, you can't get objective truth for the most part. All you can get is this opinionated propaganda nonsense. And that's why we exist. That's why there's patriots in this country who just want to, like, for instance, for me, I just want to tell you the truth as I know it and share the awesome grace of our Lord and Savior with you. Other than that, that's my whole thing. So now here's a couple things I want to go over before we sign off here. My favorite segment is reacting to President Trump's Twitter, which is getting epically awesome more and more every day. Here's the latest post. President Trump says, "So sorry to hear the news about Jeff Bezos being taken down by a competitor whose reporting, I understand, is far more accurate than the reporting in his lobbyist newspaper, the Amazon Washington Post. Hopefully the paper will soon be placed in better and more responsible hands." Couldn't have agreed more, but now there's a few funny things here. First of all, Bozo. Who is Bozo? Bozo the Clown, Jeff Bezos. That could be a direct wink and a nod to everyone to say he's definitely somehow involved with the CIA. You guys know the news that's come out. If you haven't, you probably have been living under a rock because, you know, the story's been plastered all over every news agency that Jeff Bezos is getting a divorce from his wife. Now, one of the Anons had a very interesting theory about this supposed divorce that's happening, right? And another thing I want to point out here is that this was a competitor who's reporting. It's a wink and a nod to the National Enquirer, I think, from President Trump. But anyway, it says, what I was going to say is that if you think about it, people have started to guess and basically hypothesize that Jeff Bezos, this whole divorce is purposefully so he can hide 50% of his fortune. Think about it. If President Trump's emergency declaration, his human trafficking order still stands, which it does, and people who are found guilty of certain activities are going to end up losing forfeit all of their assets. If you're found to be in a international human trafficking ring, if you happen to be running one of those, then you can lose all of your assets because there's no way to tell what assets were made from that, and it's just the way the law was written, right? So that's, I think, one theory, but that's kind of far-fetched. I don't know that Bezos is going down anytime soon, but we'll have to wait and see. So, yeah. Now, it gets even better. So President Trump posts this picture, the video of Elizabeth Warren, aka Pocahontas, having a beer and announcing she's going to run for president. And this is the most hilarious one. She has a beer, and then her husband walks in, and she's like, "Oh, my husband's joining us. It's so nice of you to come." Says, "Hello, this is my sweetie." And then she says, when he walks away, she's like, "Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here." That's like coming home and telling your kids or your wife or whoever, being like, "Oh, thanks for showing up. Thanks for coming. I didn't know, but thank you for joining me here." And they're like, "Well, it's our house, so I guess there's a reason why we're here." But that's just hilarious. And then President Trump says, he says, "If Elizabeth Warren, often referred to by me as Pocahontas, did this commercial from Bighorn, her Wounded Knee, instead of her kitchen, with her husband dressed in full Indian garb, it would have been a smash." Oh my gosh, that is yep. And here he points out what everybody, I think, noticed, which is hilarious. Best line in the Elizabeth Warren beer catastrophe is to her husband, "Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here." It's their house. He's supposed to be there. Oh, I'm having too much fun now. See, sometimes you gotta lighten it up with a little bit of levity and humor. Hilarious, though. Hilarious. Okay. So, with that being said, I guess we'll go ahead and we'll do a few more things before we sign off. First of all, come here, hit the subscribe button if you want to help out the channel. It helps out big time. Click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you smash the bell for notifications. And don't forget to go hit that like button so that everybody knows you have watched this video, and you let everyone out there, YouTube, know that you like this video. See? That's that simple. So when you hit like, it helps out. Also, don't forget to watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out there, and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights down at the bottom of this video. I really would love to. I can't wait to read some comments and see what you guys have to say about all this. Now, another couple ways you can help out the channel are pretty simple. First of all, you can come over here to Patreon. It's a crowdfunding website. You guys help me support the channel. Look, I don't go over what YouTube does on a regular basis because I've come to the point where it's just, I don't want to sound like a broken record. But let's just put it this way. When you guys come over here and support me on Patreon, this is how I depend on you guys to come help me out here. And I thank you guys for your support. So come over here to Patreon, patreon.com, search Just Informed Talk, or click the link in the description of this video. Then you can click this button to become a patron. It's a monthly donation. Set it and forget it. Know you're helping create this content, and you're helping me keep this content going. So I appreciate that truly, and your help is very much appreciated. So also, there's a GoFundMe page I set up. If you don't want to do a monthly donation, I totally understand. You can come here and make a one-time donation. So either way, links to both those will be in the description, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your help. Also, you can come check out justinformednews.com. Of course, the link will be in the description of this, and you can check out it's the Just Informed Talks official website. You get all these links to Q stuff, links to different news outlets, and you get some live news feeds here, and you get all the content that I create. So there's a lot of cool stuff to go check out there, and I encourage you guys to go check it out. Also, don't forget to come over here and follow me on Twitter at Justin_formed. That also helps out big time. You come over here, and all you got to do is find me at Justin_formed on Twitter, and give me a follow, and that's a cool way you can help out the channel as well. So With that being said, let's go ahead and wrap up this video with a little segment I like to call God's Grace is Greater. It's a segment we do at the end of each one of these videos where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater, because I believe that God's word is one of the most purifying things that we can share with one another to help us become stronger in our faith and better individuals, is by living by our Lord and Savior. And there's a lot of adversity that we'll encounter, right? There's a lot of roadblocks that we're going to hit. There's a lot of things that are unexpected. They're going to come up. They're going to make life hard and create a challenge for you to overcome. But you have to remember that in those times is when we are called to reach out to the Lord. And I want to share this verse with you. This is out of Psalm 34. It's verses 19 through 22, and it talks about adversity and how we should overcome it. And I think these words, to me, just are, these are the words that we should live by. It says, again, it's Psalm 34, verses 19 through 22. It says, "Many adversities come to the one who is righteous, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones. Not one of them is broken. Evil brings death to the sinner, and those who hate the righteous will be punished. The Lord redeems the life of his servants, and all who take refuge in him will not be punished." And that's as simple as it is. To remember that when adversities come up, they're pretty much guaranteed if you're doing your best to live a righteous life. If you're a righteous man or woman and you're doing your best to live by God, there's going to be adversities that come up, but the Lord will deliver you through them all. And he will protect you. And that is the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. And all of the evil out there and the people who are sinners who are trying to pull you down, they will be punished by God in the end. And that's the solace we have, is to know that God is with us. And when we take refuge in the Lord, we will not be punished. And the Lord will redeem your life. And that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. Again, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come here, click the big red subscribe button. That's going to be it for me. I want to say thanks for watching. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.